Lisa,
Yes, baby girl.
when I grow up, I want to be a womanist to society.
And so shall you be. Hey, welcome to Womanist to Society. This is Lisa Landry. I'm joined today, and I'm so happy to have this guest today. Dr. Michele Ross is here. Welcome to the podcast, Michele.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to finally get to talk with you. I think you're an amazing person. First of all, you're a neuroscientist, which blows my mind because I don't know anybody who's a neuroscientist.
Well, it's funny. I always wanted to be like a doctor or scientist or something. I was obsessed with brains, but I had never actually met a female scientist until I was 22 years old. That's pretty ridiculous, first off.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to be a scientist because everyone I talk to is also like, oh, the only scientist I know of is Bill Nye the Science Guy. And I'm like, okay, he's a science educator, but not a scientist.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they don't let us out of, they don't let us out of the lab usually that much. So I'm a slightly different scientist because I do more education. I get to run my institute and get to go travel around the world talking to people. But most people have not met a scientist.
No. And you were the first scientist on a reality show, right?
Yeah, it's so funny because if you had asked me, 20 years ago, would you have been on TV? And it's sort of silly, but I ended up applying to a Cannabis ad for scientists for a bit part in a TV show, and it turned out to be Big Brother, which was the only reality TV show I had ever watched with my family and everything. So I was like, okay, it's an interesting time in my life. I'll go make this leap and go do this. And it turned out I was the only female scientist ever on reality TV in the whole world. And so after I did that show for 3 months, they started casting other nerdy, smart women in other countries. They had such a good response to it. I was like, who knew? People like people with brains. It's cool. So
we're also very
really
beautiful.
Happy to do that.
Yeah, you are very pretty. So that's good. You were. What'd you do? You broke the ceiling. You broke the seal.
Right? And yeah, first we have the glass ceiling, then we have the grass ceiling, which I'm sure we're going to get to the cannabis stuff soon, too. So, I've always been a black sheep, so I'm like, you know what, I'll put me out there out front, you can throw some arrows at me and stuff, I'm all good. I bounce back pretty easily.
Yeah, you are a pioneer in cannabis research, and in America, at least.
Yeah, it's funny because we do have cannabis research going on all across the world. It's just funny. I actually published my first paper on cannabinoids and neurogenesis back in 2006, and I wanted to do cannabis research, but it was really difficult in the United States. Our government doesn't fund anything except cannabis addiction research, which is oh, you smoked one too many joints and you're cannabis addict, which isn't a real thing for most people. A very small percentage actually get addicted to it, and it's usually because they're depressed or have anxiety or something else. But it's sort of funny. So it's if you actually want to study it in the United States for the medical benefits, hey, how can we use cannabis to stop breast cancer? How can we use cannabis for fibromyalgia or something like that? There's no federal money for that. And then the nonprofits that traditionally fund other research, private foundations, they're oh, well, that's cannabis. That's we can't, fund your work because then the other donors, our pharmaceutical funded donors, will stop donating to us. So it's just it's so political. And all we want to do is help people, and it's been challenging. A lot of people tell me, go move to Canada, go move to Australia, go move anywhere but the United States, and your life will be so much easier.
Oh, yeah, but don't leave us.
No, I know. That's what I tell, it's just funny. I think, one day a month, I'm I have, my to-do list is just, screw it and go to, Costa Rica or Peru or Australia or something. I'm okay, back to earth. You can do this. You're a strong woman, you can do this.
Amen. You founded the Endocannabinoid Deficiency Foundation.
Yeah, so that's actually what our nonprofit was called in 2013 before we changed it over to Impact Network. So cannabis has a funny problem. So a lot of banks, if you say the word cannabis or even cannabinoids, they think that you grow weed. And that's, illegal for banks to deal with people that are in an industry that's still serving, that's still considered Schedule 1. And so it's just funny. I actually had, this conversation with Wells Fargo. I'm sitting down there, and they're like, endocannabinoid, like they yanked our bank account and they're like, well, you should stop growing weed. And I'm like, I don't grow weed. I write books and educate nurses and doctors, and like that's what all our people do. And then I showed them a little, like, you know, schematic of the endocannabinoid system and how it's like a neurotransmitter that's in our brain, just like dopamine and serotonin. And they're like, so you grow weed. We're not going to get anywhere. Everyone has like a second grade science education at best, or they think you're just lying and you just grow weed. So I was like, okay, we're going to change it to like the most like generic thing possible. And it's just funny. Impact Network is actually like, there's other foundations that are like a water charity, a Christian TV network. So we actually get like mistaken for those sometimes, which is a good thing. People are like, oh, the nice Christian TV people are back. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. So that's how we've survived so far. You know, you have to be crafty in this because, again, at the end of the day, we're doing everything above board. We're even registered like with the NIH, like as a research institute. We work with universities here in Colorado and other states and other countries. And yet we get this stigma from everyone we talk to, like mainstream companies that would normally donate or let us do fundraisers. They're like, oh, does $1 from this fundraiser go to grow weed? And you're like, no. Like, that's all anyone's worried about. It's so funny. So we were sneaky. But actually, Impact Network stands for something. So I just want to throw that out there since we have some time.
Oh, yes, please.
So it stands for yeah. So IMPACT is all caps, and it stands for Improving Marijuana Policy and Accelerating Cannabinoid Therapeutics for Women Worldwide. We thought it was really important to focus on women, especially adult women, because there's not a lot of nonprofits in the cannabis space that are looking how to use this plant for women. And it's, you know, there are nonprofits that are focused on veterans or football players or children with epilepsy and cancer, but this plant is a feminine plant. It's an actual female plant, and it's for women. Like, it actually helps us with so many things, from pelvic pain to migraines to mood problems to, like, anything you could think of. This plant has the potential to help.
Right.
And it's sort of like women are looked over by the mainstream health industry, right? Like, we are the doctors. They don't listen to us. Like, we're hysterical or crazy or like looking for pills, right? But here we have this one plant where you can actually use it to heal yourself and be empowered to make decisions about your health.
That's probably why it's legal, Dr. Ross.
Yeah. So, we try really hard to help make it legal in every place possible. Like, even in Colorado, like, get this. Everyone thinks that we're like the king of weed here, right? So there's weed everywhere. You know, anyone over the age of 21 can use it. But actually, 75% of counties in our state were elected to ban it for recreational use. So really, it's like Denver has it, Boulder has it, Colorado Springs, like maybe some, like they're always fighting about it over there. So it's like, it's actually not that easy to get cannabis here. So California is going to be way more ahead of the curve than Colorado is.
That's amazing. I would never know that.
Yeah, and it's so sad. Like, I talk to cancer patients in parts of Colorado, and they're like, there's no medical marijuana doctors for 4 hours, so I can't get my card, and they won't let them, like, do telemedicine. So you're like, these poor people, like, are suffering in the state where everyone thinks that there's weed everywhere. And you're like, it's not like that. There's still so much education and so much, like, we have to convince doctors that it's real medicine. Like, over 60% of doctors in Colorado think medical marijuana is a joke. And it's just like they grew up in conservative families or whatever, but you're like, dude, there's people taking it all over. There's all this research here. Like, there's millions of dollars of research studies that have been funded by marijuana tax money in Colorado, and yet they're still like, dude, that's what I just smoked that in college. That's not a real medicine, you know, and that's what they think. So
how do we
it's almost like you have to wait for the old doctors to die.
That's what I was going to ask you. How do we educate them? Is that a generational thing? Is it more the baby boomers with that mindset? Is it Gen X?
Well, it's you have to realize, like, where doctors are coming from, right? So, like, traditionally, doctors come from conservative families, right? Because in order to go to the medical school in the United States, you have to have, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so it's getting harder and harder for people of, you know, not super wealthy backgrounds to become doctors. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I became a scientist instead of a doctor. I came from a very poor family. And so I was like, okay, to get an MD, I'm going to have to, like, mortgage my life off and be in, like, debt forever. or to get a PhD, they'll actually pay me to go do research. So I was like, which one makes more sense there? But in our country, I mean, conservative families, it's like your dad was a doctor, then you became a doctor, your kid's going to become a doctor. And if you grew up in a family where, you know, that was not part of your life or was very stigmatized, you know, you're just going to pass on those judgments. And it doesn't even matter if, you know, a patient comes in and they're like, I cured my cancer with this. They're like, whatever, you know. They're just not going to believe it. And there's some doctors, right, like, it's like with any new treatment, right? Like, there's new pharmaceutical drugs, there's new, like, weird treatments that are like, hey, we got this magnetic thing here, we got this wand, you know, like, all sorts of things come out, right? Mm-hmm. Not all doctors adopt these things. Like, right now, like, even genetic tests, right? Like, we have 23andMe, we have all these cool things out there. How many doctors are like, yeah, go get a genetic test and see, you know, what's wrong with you, and or like how you respond to medication. Some of them are like, I don't understand that. Never mind, you know. So we have these doctors that are early adopters. We have these doctors that like will only adopt things if you throw a bunch of cash or cruises at them, or like pharmaceutical reps type of garbage. And you have these other doctors that are like the small little sliver of like 5% is like, I will do anything that helps my patient. But unfortunately, that's not the majority of doctors. So it's like we have these problems in cannabis, but they're not just cannabis. We have these problems where like doctors are ignoring nutrition or stress management or anything like that isn't a pharmaceutical.
Domestic
so
abuse.
It's just a pain in the neck.
Yeah, they people see things through their own little limited perspective most of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We all got motivations. Money is a big one. Money and God.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of scripture in the Bible that tells you to smoke, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I'm not a super religious person, but yeah, I've been told that, you know, it's like cannabis and, you know, holy anointing oils. There's a little bit about there with frankincense too. And it's very interesting because a lot of the oils, yeah, they're actually used to treat cancer. So patients will take cannabis, frankincense, and like a whole bunch of things that are listed in the Bible. And yet, you know, there's still people out there, especially in like Midwestern states, where they're just like, this is still the devil's lettuce. And you're like, oh, it's 2017.
Yeah. Well, plus it says holy oil right there in the book. Like, what do you think it was? Crisco?
Right? Yeah.
Now,
I mean, if you've ever actually seen patients, like, been treated by this, like, it sounds crazy because there's nothing else, like, in the pharmaceutical world, right? Like, where you have somebody with, like, 5 different, you know, problems, right? You're like, this person has prostate cancer, this person has epilepsy, this person has this and that, and this one thing works for it. It is like a miracle drug, you know? It's sort of crazy. Like, it's so out of context with everything that we've been taught about by mainstream medicine. So for people who are like, you almost have to like believe in it as like a leap of faith. So it's like the people that have a lot of faith should adopt this, but it's sometimes hard for them.
Yeah, there's some. I know people who are evangelicals who actually are very pro medical marijuana, but they might be, you know, who knows? I mean, I don't hang in those congregations so often, but I do know that, you know, it seems like people are becoming more open to this idea that cannabis is such a cure-all. I have actually spoken with a few people. Santa Claus was actually on the podcast, a gent named Legally Santa Claus, and he actually advocated to keep dispensaries open in North Pole, Alaska, because the locals were going to try to close them, and he cured his cancer with cannabinoids. He refused chemo.
Thing, you know, that's hilarious. Like, I love that. So, like, with cancer, right, like, it's such a bummer to talk about it, and I hate to be, like, a fearmonger, but, like, 1 in 2 of us will get cancer at some point in our life, and then, like, the stats may even go up because we live in this crazy, stressful, polluted world, right? This is the idea. Like, every single one of us has cancer cells, right? And so it takes about 10 years for, like, a cancer, you know, cluster that hasn't, like, died and been, like, you know, flushed out by your immune system to, like, grow into a tumor that can be, you know, detected with a scan or some kind of other test. And so, like, what if we all just managed our, you know, cancer risk? We're like, imagine if we could take something and just freezes our cancer cells so that they don't grow, they don't spread, and it never becomes like a tumor or cancer, right? Like, if we have a 50% chance of getting cancer, like, I would do something about that, right? And so that's what cannabinoids are. And there's actually specific cannabinoids that we are trying to study right now to see if somebody has breast cancer risk, right? Like, they have the horrible breast cancer genes, right? And they took, say, CBD or some other cannabinoid that was anti-cancer for their specific cancer, and they took that, say, for 5 years. Do they actually develop the breast cancer or prostate cancer or colon cancer that they were supposed to develop? And I mean, it's suggested that that shouldn't happen, that they should actually not get cancer, but we're just so much in the infancy of understanding cannabis and everything, but like that's the world I want to live in. I want to live in a world where no more young women end up with breast cancer, ovarian cancer. We don't have cancer. Like, imagine if we just got to live out our lives, like, you know, without pain, without all this suffering. Like, it strikes me as not okay that we all have to go through like the chemotherapy experience or the surgery experience, you know, but cancer should not be part of our life. And I think that, you know, 20 years from now, it's not going to be.
Oh, let's hope not. That's patriarchy, though, isn't it? Patriarchy will just invent something that you need a cure for and sell you that cure at 3 times the price and tell you that you should just take this because I've gone to school and I have a penis, so I know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, the healthcare system is just funny because people always try to fix it, right? And we know that, like, the best things, like, you know, we are put through disruption, right? And like, we didn't, like, make a better cassette. We came out with CDs, and we came out with, like, you know, the iPod, you know? So, like, the healthcare system right now is broken. We have a bunch of people that we, like, give, like, godlike powers to, right? And like, it's like you go to school, you learn for 4 years, and now you're the medicine god, right? And we're supposed to listen to everything that you say, even though it's incorrect. It's based on stuff from 40 years ago,
right?
And it's also influenced by the fact that this pharmaceutical lady comes over and like lines your pockets, like to go talk about this drug instead. So like, it's all wrong. It's all wrong.
Yeah.
So I hope that we go back to like helping people help themselves. You know, patients are powerless. I mean, you go to your doctor and it's like he has all the power. He gets to refer you. He gets to figure out which drugs you need. Like, he gets to tell you when you don't deserve drugs, which is really crazy now, too, because I'm a chronic pain patient. I have fibromyalgia. And I talk to women that have legitimate, you know, medical issues, and they're being told now because of the opiate crisis, and they're so worried about diversion and people becoming addicts, that people that are responsible opioid users for their medical conditions are now being cut off and go into cold turkey, you know, withdrawal, which is just absurd. You know, if you're a chronic pain patient and you have a real problem, like, you can't just be like, sorry, you have no pain management. Also, cannabis isn't legal in your state, so good luck.
Right, go buy some heroin, don't overdose.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the lack of compassion for patients and the blaming, right? Like, there are people that abuse drugs, right? There are people that are using, you know, opiates, you know, that they haven't been prescribed for because they have emotional pain or they became addicted.
I know someone like that. Yeah.
Like, it happens. Yeah. Instead of passing judgment, we need to offer solutions. Like, I am really frustrated. In Denver, Colorado, where I am right now, I actually use kratom as well as cannabis for my fibromyalgia pain. You know, there's different things for different days and different symptoms, and it's one of the things that I keep, like, in my pharmacy is kratom. If you don't know, is it's very similar to cannabis. It has different strains. Like, there's some that are like more like stimulant like. There's some that are more relaxing and sleepy, like pain relieving. But it's very safe. It doesn't cause any addiction because it doesn't activate certain things downstream of the opioid receptor, but it is very, very helpful for pain relief and also for people that have been in recovery from opiate addiction. But they just banned it in my state based on the fact that they think that it should become a Schedule I drug. And I was like, so you have this plant that's been very helpful for people that used to be heroin addicts, and you're going to take it away from them and make it in the same group as heroin, even though no one dies from it.
Wasn't that the FDA that did that? They scheduled that? Or they decided with the...
They haven't scheduled it yet. Last year they tried to make it Schedule I, and patients and users of kratom across the country actually were doing protests at DEA offices. And you're like, if this is a sketchy drug that people are abusing, right, they wouldn't be showing up at DEA offices. Like, trust me, like, the last thing a person who uses drugs or deals drugs wants to do is show up at the DEA, right? Like, it's not going to happen. So it was a bunch of patients saying, like, you know, if you take this medicine away from me, I'm going to go back to using heroin. I'm going to go back to, I might kill myself because it's the only thing that helps me with my PTSD or my pain or something else like that. I can't take opiates because I'm an opiate addict, you know? And this is the thing. When you take people's options away from them, like, sorry, you can't have cannabis. Sorry, you can't have kratom. Like, oh, you can't afford massages or some other stuff that might actually be able to be helpful for you because no one's health insurance is good anymore. So
right.
I am like a huge patient advocate, and just like, I'm so lucky, and it sounds crazy, like, I'm so lucky to have gone through horrific years of pain, to have struggled as a patient, because it gives me a perspective as a researcher, as a nonprofit head, to put myself in the shoes of other people that, don't have access to medicine, that are struggling, right? Because a lot of people don't know. If you're just sitting on some board of a health thing, health council, and you're a healthy person, you have no idea how hard it is for that person just to make it through that day. And so we have to give everyone the option, to live their healthiest and happiest life, and we need to stop passing judgment on plants. More freedom, less freedom in this country, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think you should run for maybe Senate or something. There's a lot of openings about to happen.
It's just funny, like the Women's March and everything, we've been trying to encourage people to do that. It's hard. So, I do actually a lot of lobbying and advocacy across the country. I've actually helped with some of the passing of laws for cannabis with different qualifying conditions to get medical marijuana in different states, right?
Okay.
And so I've been in the government arena, but it is stressful as heck, It's being in a reality TV show is one thing, but when you represent constituents, no one is happy. No one is happy with politicians. No one. So it's I don't even know if I could deal with being even more hated than I am now. There's only so much you can take, but I do believe it's really important for women, especially science-educated women, to get into office. And in fact, I was part of the March for Science, and there's another group too called 500 Women Scientists, and they encourage women with science degrees and health degrees to get into office because it's really sad when we look at these pictures of Congress or the Senate, is a whole bunch of white men voting on reproductive health rights and things like that. It's just disgusting. And we deserve equality, but we have to, we have to earn it, and we have to push for it. And we can't be lazy. They're not going to give us back our rights. We have to go in there and demand it. And the only way you can demand it is if you have the power of being in a political office. So, more women out there, go do that, please. I got to do some science because unfortunately there's not enough of us with the expertise to really drive this. So it's if I could clone myself, yes, one of me would be a politician that would change all the laws. One of me would be in the lab somewhere, but I haven't perfected cloning, so it's a bummer.
Well, you should get on that now. I know you're busy, but set aside 10 minutes
really
every day to you handle that.
Really long.
No, it is kind of
I took
disappointing.
my first vacation in years. I'm not even joking. I haven't had a vacation in 7 years. Because I do a lot of traveling, but for work. So It's just funny when people are like, "Oh yeah, just add that on there." I was like, guys, you don't even know how long all of this would take.
You know what though? I
bet the world 5 times.
You're one of those people that's doing so much. I bet you would get to the beach on your little vacation, and your mind would just race as you sat there, and you would just have to jot down notes.
Oh my God, no! I hid my phone, I hid my laptop. I refused. I was no pens, papers, because that's how I am. I will go to sleep at night and wake up and be I have 5 ideas for something, or da da da. And Michelle, go to sleep. But it's really hard to turn off your brain when you're like that. And so, I was actually reading some books on a plane about stress and rest, and they're high-performing people, they are under a lot of stress, and they're always go, go, go. You write your books, you write your papers, you go and do all this stuff, but you need to make sure you take as much time for that stuff that it's I hate the soft word self-care, but for a high-performing CEO woman, you really have to make sure you take that rest. And a lot of times we feel guilty for it. People are how dare you take a 5-day vacation? I'm my first vacation in 10 years, oh my God, how dare me? But why am I even defending myself? We have to take these, times out where it's not just one day. You have to shut off your brain. And sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days to get to that point. I was shush brain, you can do this. You can meditate. You can do, you don't have to be a scientist or a superhero right now. You're just a girl on the beach. It's cool. And, I really enjoyed being a girl on the beach for the first time in a very long time.
It is very important. I think that's I don't know. I think that's a white baby boomer thing too, a chick thing where they can't just chill. They feel guilty if you just stay in bed for a day.
Yeah.
It's all about I wasted this whole day. It was my Saturday. Blah, blah, blah. It's okay, well, you need that though. And I'm not trying to say that other cultures.
It's a sickness. I think the United States, right? If we look at other countries France is oh, you can't work more than 40 hours a week. In our country, every year we add more hours to our work week. We're 47 is the average. Next year it'll be 55. We're oh, you took Sunday off? How dare you? it's a sickness, honestly. It's like more work equals better things, but like we're getting paid less, we're working more hours, we're like getting sicker too because we're sleeping less and working more and like having horrible relationships because you're never around your kids or your spouse or anything. Like, the United States is set up for failure. Like, we're going to burn out. Like, we're not being more productive. We're just more busy.
Dr. Ross for Senate.
Yeah. Like, we all need to, like, chill out. Like, that's what I love about cannabis. Like, guess what? Like, not a lot of us have a lot of self-care time, right? Mm-hmm. If you can fit in 1 hour of yoga after you've, like, you know, lit up a joint, right? And you have this, like, you can, like, feel like you actually relaxed for, like, a whole week, you know? And it's having those moments and taking, like, advantage of them and, you know, connecting to yourself, connecting to others, you know, connecting to your body. Like, it's so important. And so that's why, like, I feel like even, like, in an imperfect world, cannabis can help bring us back and give us some balance, like, despite how fucked everything is.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's phenomenal health benefits. I've met people who've cured their cancer, you know, and I personally, I know I'm a card holder and I do enjoy medicating and meditating. I find it to be life-changing because it helps you find that peace. And so once you're able to find that peace within, you can give it to others.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That is the truest thing. And it's just funny. It's like, cannabis can help you find your purpose too. I met a lot of people that are like, you know, anxious and stressed out and they don't know, like, they hate their jobs, they hate their lives, and sometimes, like, cannabis helps you slow down and, like, reevaluate things or release stress or trauma too, because as women we're all holding trauma.
Amen.
Like, no matter what it is, if you don't know that you're traumatized, like, you haven't been digging deep enough. Like, you have been traumatized.
You've been told to suck it up. It didn't matter.
Oh my God, yeah. Like, I couldn't even, like, look at that hashtag, the Me Too. I was like, yeah, like, no shit. It's everyone. Like, everyone is hurting. Everyone's suffering. So if we can alleviate that by a little bit, I mean, for goodness sakes. It's like half of, like, our physical pain is caused by emotional pain. And it's just funny. It's just like you do some yoga, you do some twists, right? And it's like you can go and actually release some of that tension. Like, people have hip pain, they have back pain and things like that. And you're like, no, it's like you're stressed out, you're hurt, you're guarding. And if we can help release emotional pain and stress, like, that's the first step to healing. And it's so important. I'm like, everyone, I don't care if you think yoga is, like, the stupidest thing on earth. Like, trust me, I did not do yoga until 2 years ago, and I'm, like, all about, like, you know, like, self-help and, like healthy living and everything, but I was still, like, I can't do it. I can't focus, like, for an hour, go to, like, do this. Like, I'm a very active person. I'm like, I'll go run or something like that. I can't do it. And for me, it was one of the most amazing things because it helped me get disciplined. Like, it's like you're forced, you're accountable, and everyone else is like, okay, Michelle, you can't just run out of this class after 5 minutes. Like, you gotta go do this, you know? And it's actually helped me release a lot of tension, a lot of emotional stress, and help me grow. And, you know, help me realize that, again, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. That's like the golden rule. And that's what every single one of us tries to do. We try to help fill up other people's cups, but we're, like, empty ourselves. And so that's, like, one takeaway from this. I'm like, you can't be a badass bitch and save the world if you don't save yourself first.
That's a beautiful philosophy. It totally makes sense.
I don't know if you know this. I swear like a sailor, too, because I'm from Jersey, so I apologize if you're not allowed to have F-bombs on your podcast.
I'm not offended, sister.
Okay.
We do try to keep it,
I like to keep it real.
Yeah, we do try to keep it suitable for work, but, you know, F-bombs welcome, too. I mean, heck, we're all grown folk. And plus, you're a neuroscientist. You get to choose your, like, vocabulary.
Well, if you ever seen that study, it says was like the higher IQ, the more you curse. So I was like, I got this down, guys. We're good.
Well, I want to thank you. I want to wish you well, too. I know that AG Sessions is, I don't know, talking about a crackdown and all this stuff. And I know that you are one of the first scientists in the Scientists for Legalization. And y'all are already kind of watching your backs as scientists who are pro-hemp, pro-cannabis research.
Yeah, you know, it's such a scary time. I've never felt a time where people have been censored, right? And it's not just cannabis. I mean, people from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, are, like, scared to talk, you know? Yeah. People are, like, trying to copy all their servers and make sure the government didn't erase it. You don't know if you're on a watch list or anything. Like, it's just scary. Like, an anti-intellectualism environment is just, it's just the worst. And it's just funny. I've had other friends, like, you know, France was actually offering American scientists, they're like, come here, we'll pay you, we love you. Like, people are like, want to come with me to France? I'm like, oh God, every single day there's a new thing. But you know, it's interesting because you do actually have to weigh your options, right? If you want to be like really, really, you know, like radical and moving things forward, like you have to make sure you don't go to jail or you don't get bankrupted or you don't have certain things happen to you. And you know, unfortunately, I've been such a vocal advocate. I have had, like, brushes with the law, and, like, I've never been convicted of anything. But, like, you know, when you're talking about doing cannabis education, they try to, like, throw a conspiracy charge on you. You're like, I'm conspiring to educate the world. Like, thanks. You know, like, that really happened to me in Los Angeles. That was one of the reasons why I moved to Denver. Mm-hmm. And so you have to realize that sometimes there are consequences to exercising your right to free speech, or there are consequences to actually doing the right thing. Like, unfortunately, oppressive governments they do bad things. And so, you know, that has been one of the things where, you know, even my nonprofit would have had a much easier time, you know, had the Democratic Party gotten in, you know, and Hillary Clinton, like, I actually know a woman that was going to be part of Hillary's transition team and part of legalizing cannabis in the United States. So, I mean, it would have been a very different trajectory, and it's actually, like, really sad. But it's, like, not, like, the sadness doesn't come from the part, like, oh, we could have just had legal cannabis sometime, you know, this year or next year. The part comes back is, like, everything that we've done is rolled back, and people are scared. Like, I have people that are scared about talking about kratom. I have people that are scared about talking about CBD. Like, every day, there's this fear of, like, oh, my God, they're going to raid my home, or I'm going to lose my job, or, like, it's not worth fighting. Let's just wait till Trump gets out of office. And I just feel like, as scientists, like, in academics are supposed to fight. We're supposed to be avant-garde. Like, we're supposed to be debating and discussing and not be like, I'm too scared, like, bye, I got to get out of here. And so more and more academics are leaving the country. And it's just something where I may think about it doing it in 2018 because I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to lose my job. Like, but we have to be able to protect people's rights. And so if it means, like, being outside the country but still leading the fight here, like, it's just something I have to think about. But it sucks, you know. It's like, I love America. Like, I grew up here. Like, I don't want to leave. But you have to do what makes sense.
Well, thank you for your struggles and your challenges you're facing. I'm sorry it's so bleak, but, you know, well-behaved women rarely make history. And, you know, and you seem to be a trailblazer, so thank you for your service.
Thank you. You know, and again, it sounds bleak, but, you know, it's just because we're all about short-term wins, right? Like, in this country, we possibly have a new president every 4 years. Like, in other countries, it's a little bit longer. Like, guess what? You know, 2-3 years, you know, could have the most amazing president the world has ever seen. You know, like, who knows? You know, so we just got to get through these little dips and you know, knowing that there's going to be a peak some point.
Right.
So,
Tulsi's coming. Tulsi's coming.
The girl panties on, we can do this. But if I have to go to, like, a cute little island for, like, a year and wait this out, like, might not be the worst thing in the world, you know? I'm on sabbatical.
I like your optimism and your determination, Dr. Ross. Where can people go to find out more about you and your organizations and your scientific work?
Sure. So my nonprofit, Impact Network, you can find us at impactcannabis.org, not .com, because that's .org is the ending for nonprofits. You can also find a little bit more about me, like my bio and any speaking engagements. I do speak all across the country, so if you have, you know, a nonprofit or a different group that wants to learn about all the different topics that I talk about, I list them there, and that's at DrMicheleRoss.com. And, of course, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Dr. Michele Ross, too.
That's right, and with one L. So, yeah, Michele with one L.
Yeah.
Thanks for spelling it out. Yes. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ross. You're a delight.
Thank you so much. I love being able to talk to as many people as possible. So your podcast is awesome. And I shared your T-shirt, too. You have that little... what was it? The
service plan.
Oh my goodness, I'm totally blanking out. But service plan. Yeah, that's so cute.
Thank you. I was inspired.
I think that's hilarious.
We have one with the marijuana leaves and camo for the veterans, you know.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Gotta
Well,
love
thank
them.
you so much for having me, and have an amazing day.
Thanks. Right back at you, sister. You're awesome. Thank you so very much for joining us, Dr. Michele Ross. Thanks for listening, y'all. Come back next Womanist Wednesday. Join me at lisalandry.com where you can sign up for my newsletter and you will receive a free audio download. And yeah, it's Genesis 1:29. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed which is upon all the face of the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. I'm saying God's telling us to smoke. Ari, I love you. No smoking for you until you're 21.